Down there might be a hearing on the diesel bill. You
I know,
could
I
go
was just
over.
thinking.
Yeah. There's supposed to be a diesel hearing
Are they
tomorrow.
still having all the hearings
Yeah.
and whatever, since there's no R's in the building?
Well, that's a good question.
Well,
On
okay.
air.
All right. We should talk about that. Okay. So, opening up the work session for May 7th, 2018, and our first item up is Public Safety Advisory Committee Annual Update. Is that what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, and Kelly Brooks, Assistant City Manager. I'm just here to introduce Jennifer Backus, who works on our engineering team. And she has done an amazing job of stepping up to help lead PSAC over the past 6-7 months.
Since October.
Yeah, since October. So she's been staffing it and doing a really wonderful job. And Regis, who's the chair of PSAC, was going to be here tonight, but he couldn't. So I'm mainly filling a seat and here to answer any questions and to back up Jennifer. But she's going to be talking through what changes they've made to their work plan and then open it up to you all to talk through kind of where PSAC goes from here.
Cool.
All right, so one of the biggest things we did is we removed the section that was on the SAFE program because all of that section it's complete now. So anything out of that, we moved down to additional tasks and ongoing because we still are doing some work with that. But the actual section, it stopped it, it's complete, it's under construction. So we had no problem taking that out. We also made a small update to the alternative street design standards section of our work plan, just to reflect the fact that recently the city did adopt an updated version of the public works standards that actually does have a low volume street standard in there. So now we are actually going to put it to PSAC to see if they have any comments about it or want to make any changes, take that back to the NDA. So that way they're still involved, and we are doing an annual update again of the public works standards, so there is time for them to get comments in if we need to make any changes there. And I think the biggest section, mainly because, as I mentioned before, we have completed the SAFE program, so that was the kind of the meat of what PSAC had been working on lately. So we're trying to figure out where does PSAC want to go from here on out. So one of the things that was kind of suggested was disaster preparedness, using PSAC's unique position as having members from each NDA on the board or on the commission. To be able to get information back and forth from the NDAs. So looking at disaster preparedness and how we could use that as a benefit. So a couple of things we wanted to work on was increasing awareness about what to expect and how the city is going to react in an emergency situation, providing education about CERT and possibly gaining new members for CERT, working towards getting members on CERT, and then providing public education, I think, is going to be the biggest piece we were looking at. A couple of the ideas that we had gotten thrown out was we'd called it Code Red registration. I recently learned that's not the correct name for it anymore. So it's actually the Clackamas County Public Alerts. So we actually have a link for that on our website. So trying to get that information out to the public and hopefully getting more people involved in that. And then also putting a big focus on 2 weeks ready. And I had spoken with Steve Hoffeditz, who's our emergency manager, and he thinks these are some pretty decent first steps that the PSAC could start working towards. And one of the bullet points, we wanted to have a focus on National Preparedness Month, which is in September. So whether that's working with CERT or having it as a unique thing on their own, something that'll do with that. We're not sure where that's going to go yet, but...
So do we have, you said Steve Hoffeditz, we have a preparedness manager?
Yeah, an emergency manager. Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that position had been filled.
Chief Straight, would you like to come to the table for a moment?
Hi. Yeah, we did recently hire a new emergency manager. It's a part-time position, and Steve Hoffeditz was hired the first week of the month. He is working part-time with slightly flexible hours to accommodate some evening meetings. He has about 25 years in the fire service and retired from Clackamas Fire as a lieutenant and their public information officer. So he's brand new, up and running, and I'm sure you folks will all meet him in the near future. But he's starting to kind of build the foundation of that program.
Great. That's exciting. Yeah.
Has some plans to kind of come into the PSAC meetings on an as-needed basis to help push us in the correct directions, which I think will be pretty valuable if we take this step.
I have a suggestion as a partnership
Yeah.
we did it when I was on Public Safety Advisory Committee. The Davises do their Davis Graveyard. They usually open right around the end of September. And we did a tabling with CERT for disaster preparedness. We did sort of a zombie theme. we all painted our faces for zombie apocalypse. And Clackamas Fire was helpful in putting together a raffle item for a 72-hour kit, which obviously isn't enough for 2 weeks, but we did put together a 72-hour kit. I'd suggest just don't recreate the wheel. That might be a good opportunity for
Good
some
starting point, at least.
engagement and getting our new person out there in the field at a fun event. The kids from the high school come and perform and do a big zombie dance, and so it was well attended. It was good publicity for CERT. A lot of people put in raffle tickets, and we raised some money. So for CERT, it was good.
Fantastic, thank you. That's a really good start.
And I will add I maybe know a little more about zombies than your average person, and
Important life skills.
very important, yeah.
Ceases to amaze.
So please do share. Skills you never knew I had. So my undergraduate advisor has taught a course on zombie apocalypse and social theory, and I could call in a favor and see if he would like to come and offer something along to participate in this program. And I also know that there are first aid trainings that have been zombie themed in the Portland metro area for some time now. And if you need some help tracking down who's still doing those, I'd be happy to hook you up.
I'll probably be sending you an email. It sounds like a really fun idea. Thank you.
Do you happen to know if, as I understood last fall, there was some issue with CERT and insurance, and they were going through the fire district to try and get insurance? Was that straightened out?
Fire district.
They are insured.
Fire district straightened
Is
out.
providing insurance?
Great.
Great. Well, that should be helpful in recruiting new members now that that issue is resolved, and, yeah.
So somebody help me remember, does CERT and/or now with our emergency preparedness person in that, do we or they have a booth at the 9K for K9 or a table? That would be another really good opportunity.
Don't know if CERT has a booth. I know.
CERT helps with
But if
closing the streets
they
and
help
stuff.
put it on
yeah,
and everything,
yeah.
they help the foundation, but if not, or even if they do, that still may be a place for just emergency
You guys are ready for
preparedness.
outreach on.
Yeah,
preparedness. That
Yeah.
would be- It might
I
be
think
a
there's
good one.
plenty of outlets, and I think
Yeah.
that could be one of them too.
Yeah.
Get us up and running on that.
And there's always a big raffle at that, so maybe a
Partnership.
kit could be put together or something that would be one of the raffle prizes.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Well, it's exciting to see the PSAC go and that, take that on, because I felt like that was something that we weren't doing as a city, really. So it's nice to have that gap be filled.
Thanks,
So,
Chief.
yeah.
Thank you.
And I think mainly we just wanted to have something else to do, because right now with everything just being under construction, there's not a whole lot that they feel like we're doing other than
Yeah.
just bringing up some NDA concerns, which are still valid and useful as a back and forth, but having another big purpose, I think, would be really useful.
And I just have to point out that emergency preparedness is something that we called out as being valuable and important underneath the climate action plan.
It's in the vision.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's also in the vision.
Just one thing I wanted to add, though, Jennifer and I are going to have a follow-up conversation with Regis, and I expect I'll go back to PSAC. I still see, even though SAFE is in the implementation phase, a need for what I would consider almost like a bike ped advisory type group to talk things through. Like, there's some questions right now about, okay, what's next for Monroe? And I'm asking for that conversation to happen at PSAC so it can cover all the different neighborhoods at once. And so I'm hoping that even though there's this new area of interest, that we can help support through the new emergency manager, that we'll still have enough, that the group can still have enough capacity to talk kind of bike ped safety, because we still have a lot of work going on in that arena.
Yeah, I don't picture it being a complete switch to a new thing. This is taking up some of the time that they don't need for, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, a sounding board too. I mean, there's going to, obviously, as construction continues and more impact throughout the neighborhoods, I mean, they're going to be hearing things at their neighborhood association meetings, because that's where, a lot of the complaints might land. So I think that they should and will be engaged on all of those issues. And I was curious, it says additional tasks. I know we talked about this last year, and I was wondering if they're still thinking about the additional time for each meeting to prioritize the traffic control requests. Is that still?
We haven't had as many traffic control requests. We had a big flux of them. We actually had one of our staff members, Dalton Vaughn, and he actually got a whole bunch of those actually responded to. So as new ones come in, I'm providing basically a report to PSAC on what we've got, what we've decided, but if anything we would like their input on, then we're still bringing that up with them. We're also doing that for requests for service, which was something built through the ADA transition plan. So when those come in, we actually do bring that up to the PSAC as well, and so we have a process that we actually built through PSAC now, which is what we did this year, so.
And the only other thing I'll ask is we are missing some members. So if you know of anyone who'd be a great fit for PSAC.
At large, or
which
One is
ones are
at-
we-
neighborhoods?
Historic Milwaukie at large. We have a couple vacancies.
Two, one's at large and one's historic Milwaukie NDA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Hector Campbell also, because Heather.
Heather's moving, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if anything officials come through.
I was gonna say, I don't know if we, so 3.
Yep. So if you know anyone that would be a good fit, we're recruiting.
And it's worth noting, we recently pegged down, obviously, the NDA positions, you have to live in those NDAs or be nominated by those NDAs. The other 2 positions, at-large positions, don't necessarily have to be residents of the city. They can be non-residents.
It's interesting.
There's someone who lives just east of the city off of King Road who has put in an application. Yeah, he's interested in.
Or
Yep.
even, I mean, I could see that, might be really a business owner, or, there might be someone who has some valuable input on a lot of the issues we're.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think the only other big thing we added that was brought up last year was safe outreach, which I added that in the additional tasks. We have been doing that. I provide them every month an update on how the safe construction projects are going. And then if they hear anything back from their NDAs, we're taking that information as well. So trying to keep it as a two-way communication link.
Just so you know, it's not really necessarily for PSAC, but just for you and for Kelly, that I've been trying to encourage both Ardenwald and Lake Road to do painted intersections where we've done the first safe projects. So I'm needling them. So
It would be nice.
hopefully I think Lake Road is pretty enthusiastic. I think you will probably see an application for Lake Road for in front of Century Park. Not sure whether Ardenwald's going to come through or not, but
I hope so. They really beautify a lot, so they're
Yeah.
fun to see, and I'm hoping we get more soon.
yeah.
And Jennifer reviews the permits with the
did she?
intersections,
Oh,
so you're telling the
perfect.
exact right person. Yep. Great, well, is there anything else you want to know about PSAC? Okay,
Good.
thanks.
Thank you.
Great work. Thank you.
Good job, Jennifer, thank you.
Okay, our next item is our Climate Action Plan update, which will be presented by our Climate Action Sustainability Coordinator, Natalie. Oh, and Peter. And her sidekick, Peter.
Hey, good evening. I'm Peter Pastorelli, the Public Works Director, and this afternoon Natalie's going to give you an update on our Climate Action Plan. I wanted to mention that Natalie's been with us now 6 months.
Oh,
She has been just a fantastic addition to the team. She does a great job every day, and I look forward to coming into work and working with her every day. She has brought a lot of value to the city, and the Public Works Department, and the community. So I'm going to turn it over to Natalie.
All right, well, my name's Natalie Rogers. I'm the Climate Action Sustainability Coordinator, officially past probation. This has been the best job I've had, so thank
Is
you
this
so
when it
much
gets
all.
crazy?
This is when
You're past
the gloves
probation.
come off and it's going down in climate action. So we just wanted to give you an update of where we are in the Climate Action Plan, what cool projects we've done so far, and what is to come. So just a little overview again. So we do have 4 goals of the Climate Action Plan, really. So we have complete net zero electricity community-wide by 2035, building energy, which includes natural gas, other fuel types, and electricity by 2040. Also by 2040, 40% canopy cover. So that's something that's really important in the Climate Action Plan that's called out. And then by 2050, a completely carbon neutral city. And so that's going to cover land use, transportation, other elements that are more driven by community behavior. So far, when the Climate Action Plan was adopted, there was a 2-year implementation plan, and that called out, I believe it was 21 actions to kind of start kicking us off down this process of the 53 actions in the climate action plan. So that's the update we're going to give you, is how we are proceeding on these actions that were called out when it was first adopted. I also want to talk to you a little about the outreach that we've done so far. That's a really valuable part of implementing this plan, and that's something that we've been focusing on as a priority. And then finally, we have some really cool partnerships and projects in play. And one is going to be Green Future Impact, or Green Tariff, which you guys have probably heard about. And so Peter's going to talk to you about that at the end, and we're going to ask for your endorsement of participation in that program. So the climate action plan, if you remember, is broken down into 6 topics. So this is kind of how we're going to detail the different implementations that have occurred so far in these same 6 topics. So the first one is building energy and efficiency. So this is focusing on our electricity utility as well as optimizing the buildings in our community. So as you guys are very aware of, the Green Building Code has been a priority in actually incorporating energy efficiency into those new code updates. We also are officially on 100% carbon-free city operations. And so Peter's going to talk to you more about that, but we're achieving it through PGE's Clean Wind program. So we've been talking to them to making sure we're optimizing our accounts with PGE and balancing that to make sure that we're accounting for all the electricity that we're using that is not carbon-free. So that includes stuff like coal and natural gas.
So if I can add just a bit on that. So the
Peter,
clean wind
can you
piece.
get closer?
Yeah, the clean wind piece covers about 75% of what our electricity usage. The other 25% is really covered by the portfolio that PGE has in place. So we say carbon-free, that also includes hydro as well.
Mm-hmm. And we'll break it down for you at the very end on what we are currently and how we're hoping to move the city. Another thing that we've been doing is working with our municipal partners and regional governments and starting this conversation around community renewable options, so community scale. So taking it from commercial and residential businesses, working with their utility for renewable options, and actually being able to, as a community, make a choice on, we want electricity in our grid to be renewable. And so we've had some great discussions so far. We had kind of one kickoff meeting. We have another one on the books. Anne was really helpful in helping bring a key partner for HB 411 from Utah, which is the Community Renewable Energies Act, to come and talk to us. Vicki Bennett?
Yeah. She's the sustainability director for Salt Lake City, and she's the co-founder of USDN with Michael. So she's been working on legislation. It's legislation I helped start when I was back there that actually changes us from having an outside group do community choice aggregation to actually just having PGE do a program that allows us to choose all renewable.
So it's going to be immensely beneficial because we have so many projects going on in our community with our existing utility provider. So this would allow us to work with our existing utility provider to essentially provide community renewables, but also encourage that relationship between customers and the utility. And so that we're beginning the discussions on that. Like I mentioned, we have a discussion in June where Vicki's actually going to be in town. And so we're going to also invite Portland, Lake Oswego, Beaverton, Corvallis, Hillsborough, Hood River, and Ashland. Bend. We're all at this first conversation. Oh, and Clackamas County. And so now the second conversation we're going to have actually here in Milwaukie, and just start talking about what's people's receptiveness to this, what are some challenges that we see, and what originally we were talking about what our communities, individual communities' carbon goals were in the direction we wanted to take our communities, and now we're going to start talking about the feasibility of something like this, implementing similar legislation in Oregon. Finally, the Home Energy Score program. So this is something that I'm really excited about. Peter's really excited about. We've had discussions with Oregon Department of Energy and Earth Advantage about implementing a Home Energy Score program, almost exactly what you see in Portland and Milwaukie. And so actually this week, on Thursday, I'm going to be attending a policy planning webinar, essentially, for that to start developing that toolkit. We're hoping to bring that to you guys this summer and for rollout January 1, 2020 for a Home Energy Score. And that's our goal.
And that's a single-family
Yes.
program.
Thank you. Commercial energy scoring, that's something that we're also looking at. It's kind of just a little bit trickier. So home energy score programs are usually operated by time of sale, the point of sale, while commercial is kind of on an annual basis and it's voluntary. So trying to figure out how to make that. There is a federal program for it. So we are looking into implementing that as well and making it more of a mandatory thing. So the second section is vehicles and fuels. So this one really focuses on optimizing our own fleet, encouraging and incentivizing electric vehicles, and the shift away from fossil fuels. So April 6th, we had our Electric Avenue event, so Electric Avenue grand opening. We're really excited. We're still talking to our PGE partners about Electric Avenue. May 18th, Hillsborough's Electric Avenue opens. I'm probably going to stop by that one as well, just to show support. But we're hoping that that really starts to shift the community's thoughts and perceptions around electric vehicles and charging stations in particular. PGE is still following up regarding electric avenues and surveys and responses. We just had a discussion with PGE earlier this week, and we asked them to kind of judge the receptiveness, especially regarding businesses around electric avenues. So we really want to see if we can spread the message of potential benefit of having these public charging stations near businesses, and maybe see some challenges that they're facing as well and take that into consideration.
Just as a quick FYI on that, I was in downtown Portland on Saturday this weekend and walked by a PGE station that's down by the World Trade Center. Every single slot was filled.
We're occupying one this Monday. They're awesome, and they're some of the cheapest parking in town.
Yes.
May I say?
That's probably why I don't really need a charge, but I'm going to go.
Cheaper than paying. Right.
I know, so Damian Farwell, and our fleets and facilities manager, has been hard at work, as well as Peter, looking at optimizing our fleets and looking into electric vehicle choices. As many of you know, there's a challenge when it comes to heavy-duty vehicles for electrifying those systems, but there's already been some great choices, and I always see him scrolling through the newest innovative technology to see how we can implement it in Milwaukie. We had conversations with the U.S. Mayor's EV collaborative, EV purchasing collaborative, to start seeing how we can do a bulk purchasing power with the other cities around the nation to really encourage the monetary portion of shifting towards electric vehicles. I'm really excited. We saw some pictures of a Tesla police car. May I say? So So it has been done in 2 cities, I think. Fremont, California is the one that we saw. But, and there's something, we had a great conversation regarding how we have messaging and outreach, especially when it comes to city vehicles and how to really explain the cost effectiveness of EVs in a fleet.
It's probably not going to be the right size for city vehicles, but Daimler Chrysler is converting their plant here to be all electric truck engines.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
We have been looking at some hybrid electric vehicles as well. So Chrysler Pacifica minivan, that's there's an opportunity there to use that vehicle as a work type vehicle. And then the Mitsubishi Outlander, which is a mid-size SUV that's EV and hybrid EV as well. So there's some opportunities there.
And there's also other systems besides, the engine portion that we can electrify within these vehicles. The asphalt truck has an electric heater for the asphalt instead of operating on gas, right?
Off of propane, yeah.
Propane, yeah. So there's as I mentioned, Damian and Peter working really hard to figure out how we can actually optimize our fleet in any way we can, while also considering cost effectiveness for the city. Another thing that we have been working on is I know Damian is working really hard on it, as well as looking at the amount of fleet vehicles that we have and how our departments and staff are using vehicles to make sure we can consolidate when possible and distribute vehicles so that we're operating efficiently with sharing vehicles and seeing where we can switch something over to a light duty fleet vehicle that can be an EV. Something we've also been talking about is workplace charging for employees with EVs, and how are we negotiating that as a not as a benefit for a union contract, but more as like, how can you pay a subscription fee kind of per month to have free workplace charging, but at a standard cost, to really incentivize employees to start switching to electric vehicles. That's something that has been going through the different staff departments, and so we'll be excited to bring the news of that to you once we figure out how that's going. So land use and transportation, Kelly has kept you well informed of the safe project proceedings. Another thing that we've been participating in is the comprehensive plan, which I saw a couple of you guys at last night, really to make sure that we're institutionalizing the climate actions that have been adopted in the climate action plan, but then also just kind of infusing these thoughts and concepts into all of the policies that we're implementing as a city. I've heard some great ideas, and I mean, some of the things that I've been learning at these comp plan meetings have been fantastic, and ways that we can start to collaborate on multiple city goals to really make sure that we have climate action also in housing affordability, natural resources, and equity. So materials purchasing and recovery. So I'm part of the purchasing committee, and so we've been talking about centralized purchasing. Something coming out of that, I know that they're going to be reporting back, I think soon, is the idea around sustainability in purchasing, and perhaps something that we need to do is create a sustainability policy around purchasing. And I've been talking to a few people. It's just kind of the challenge of a spread out city and making sure that we can talk to everyone to make sure the process is efficient, while also, having a standardized process that accounts for sustainable purchasing. So food waste and composting outreach. So I redid our sustainability pages, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about, but I really put a lens of food waste and food waste reduction on those pages. I've been working closely with Clackamas County. Kelly Stewart at Clackamas County has been a fantastic resource. They've been focusing very heavily on food waste. They have a few outreach campaigns. Food waste stops with me, and so they have a commercial one and a residential one, and so we've been talking to them. We actually have a meeting with them in a few weeks to see how Milwaukie can actually officially participate as a jurisdiction in these campaigns as well.
Have they gone to residential food composting yet?
So the way that we compost in Milwaukie is your food waste can go in your yard debris.
Right. But is that
There's
true
only two
for the
cities.
county?
There's just 2 cities in the county that are doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the way Milwaukie is unique in that our waste system is a franchise system, and I think that creates some challenges if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
But just the real emphasis for Clackamas County has been food waste reduction, so even stopping it before it ends up in the compost pile. And so that's kind of, they've been talking to a lot of especially commercial food service industries. I know that their waste less, save more, one of those type, I forget the name of it, but they've worked with like Cheesecake Factory, the Bomber, a lot of different businesses to actually reduce food waste, but also show them that like smaller portion size saves the company money. So that's really exciting, and we're going to hopefully continue that partnership into the future. So the Milwaukie Repair Fair also happened the same day as Electric Avenue. So this is something that's independently organized. It was held at the Milwaukie Center, or the Wichita Center. Sorry. And we had some climate action materials there. Valeria was going to attend, but she unfortunately couldn't. And so we had also housing affordability materials there as well. And then the single-use bag and polystyrene foam ban has been implemented. There's still some compliance issues that we're seeing within, but Tim Sellers has been fantastic with maintaining a relationship with all the businesses. I'm still vetting some phone calls regarding kind of how the ban is working. We're also looking towards the future with a state ban, and once that state ban happens, I think that's going to really free up some of this from our shoulders, and we're going to take it a level higher, which will be great for ours, and also provide consistency across the region.
Just one comment on the materials and purchasing and recovery piece. Natalie touched on it a little bit, but it's really about reuse and keeping things out of the waste stream. Even beyond that recycling piece, we want to reuse and keeping those things out of those waste streams. So that's really the theme that we're working towards with those items there.
And it's sometimes it's challenging as a city because a lot of these processes just have existed for so long with single staff members with limited communication kind of on how we handle waste and potentially an item that another person might not consider waste. We're really excited because we've been talking to the library about the Library of Things as a potential stream for us to take still durable and usable goods and have it go out to the community members. Also I've been working with Karen Gardner about how Public Works and how we handle goods such as like e-waste. So we have a TV that we're looking to either recycle or donate. And so how can we streamline that donation process to make it more efficient so people will choose the donation option first rather than recycling, even if it's still sustainable.
Does our bulky waste day that we have come up under this or under some other topic? Or it seems to me that that's also certainly part of all of this.
So I haven't been touching bulky waste simply because that waste does end up in a landfill because it's kind of more of a streamlined process for residents. That could be somewhere, though, that we could tag team in the future for outreach about, like, maybe if your chair's looking a little sad, here's a vendor who can reupholster or something. Provide those resources. I mean, that's always the gap that will change behavior, right? Make it easy to choose the more sustainable option. So I'd love to work with, I know Reba, unfortunately, is leaving us, but work with whoever.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's actually, we'll talk about it. It's not a bad thing.
Well,
She's not leaving us, she's leaving this building.
Yes.
So we'll talk
At
about
one
it.
of our recent Rotary Club meetings, we had a recycler that spoke to us, and she had a number of handouts about like where you could take furniture, where you could take televisions, where you could take other electronics, all those different kinds of things. I thought I got most of the information, but I'm still don't know where to take my old box TVs.
I actually, before we keep going, do also just want to put in a plug since we talked about the waste day, the neighborhood cleanup day. So June 8th, June 15th, depending on which day in the neighborhood, please go to our website. But they are all up on the website. We are doing it, and we will be out again this year.
And
Mine in my
Jason's-
calendar already.
Thanks.
I think last year, and I assume it's still there, Jason put up a lot of that stuff about where you can take the things that you can't put in.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea of using the library as a resource, not only for, things that people can borrow, but teaming with people what's so great about the repair fair is that you're making connections that folks maybe aren't necessarily able to make themselves.
Yeah.
So you might want to fix the ceiling fan in your house, but you don't know how. And
Right.
it's far easier to just go buy a new one.
Right.
You might want to reupholster your chair, but it's awfully expensive to do that. And so maybe there's an opportunity to create, a relationship with someone who needs that service and the upholsterer who's in town who might be able to donate a little bit of services for some tax write-off purpose or whatever.
Absolutely.
So-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had planned to throw away my big lamp because it was funky. I took it to the repair fair, not this one, but the one before that. It's amazing again
Rewired.
now. That guy took the whole thing apart and went, see this, see that? Let me show you how this, and I'm like, whoa, okay.
And we have a very strong partnership with Clackamas County, so we actually work really close with them, and they are the ones who do a lot of our outreach when it comes to recycling and reuse.
Yeah.
They have a great resource on their webpage, which is actually, if you go on our webpage, we'll have all the information now that links back to Metro and Clackamas County for where people can recycle. For example, we passed around in Public Works construction recycling toolkits. I gave some to the library as well for construction materials. So it just is a guide for the quick way you can recycle this and where you should take it in our region.
I just had two examples also of reuse that the city's done, that we've done within Public Works and actually here in City Hall. So the furniture that we purchased for use in the engineering office space there was reused furniture. So we reused furniture there. And then what we've done with one of our vehicles from Public Works vehicles is we had a light-duty pickup truck, 2 light-duty pickup trucks, and we actually replaced the interior of the vehicle from what we took, the better seats and cushions and things from one vehicle and put it in the other vehicle and then surplus that second one. So we're
Nice.
to extend the life of those sorts of things.
The sustainable option is usually cost effective, may I say.
For sure.
Great. So for natural resources, we hired a natural resources coordinator. So Julian Lawrence is our natural resources coordinator. He's been doing a great amount of plantings in our city. He's also on the front line with talking to people about these trees that we're planting. His contact information is on our urban forest pages as well. So he's going to be that great liaison between the city and the community members. He's also an arborist, so he's really smart about trees in our community.
So that Tree City, that Friends of Trees event happened, I guess?
It did.
And it went well and
It went
everywhere?
well.
Yeah?
It went real well.
Do we know how many trees they
We
planted?
planted 62 trees.
Yeah.
There were 4 that were left over. And they
Team
were,
planted 7 trees, and I think there were, 10 or 11 teams. And it was great turnout, lots of volunteers from
Yeah.
Milwaukee. There were 2 people.
Sold out.
Oh, I know. I tried to sign up and it was told me I couldn't. Yeah.
It was
yeah.
great. We had 2 people on our team who were getting trees, and so we
Yeah.
actually planted their
In their
trees
yard.
In their
Yeah,
yard, so
yeah.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
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 it was a great event. It was good.
Despite the
real-
rain.
Oh, we need the rain now.
On trees.
Exactly.
That was probably the last day it rained, actually.
And we've been talking about doing a separate Arbor Day as well, and what's the best timing of an Arbor Day in alignment with the best planting time. So Urban Forest Management Plan was adopted, which was a huge success for us. The adoption of the Urban Forest Management Plan also kicked off the outreach for the plan. So we have Urban Forest homepage, which has all these resources on there, links to the tree boards. So if any community members are asking about it, please send them to the Sustainability Urban Forest page. Other cool things that's going on is right now we're working on a canopy analytics tool. So we're working with PSU researchers to develop a tool that's it's almost exactly like Branch Out PDX, which if you've ever played around with it, essentially goes down to the parcel level and incorporates socioeconomic data as well as tree canopy coverage data to better identify where we can plant trees and where can we target communities that have been historically disadvantaged and in alignment with our climate action plan, which calls for appropriate planting, considering our entire community. The canopy analytics tool, we also brought in Valeria, and there might be some more data that we can incorporate regarding housing as well in that tool, just to kind of sweeten the pot. And that tool, I think the contract was completed for it, and now it's in development. Am I right, Peter?
We're waiting on some insurance documentation for that. But it's close. We're close to starting that up.
So I have a super strange question about that. I know we're using LiDAR to do the overall canopy measurement. I'm thinking about places like Kellogg Park, where we've planted a ton of trees that are about this big. Is there any way to account for the fact that, in 10 years, their canopy will be?
So that's the hard part so these tools using LiDAR will be able to identify what type of tree is there, the approximate size, because it bounces light, essentially light beams up and down off the ground. And then from hitting canopies, you can start to see where the canopy is. You can also kind of see what sometimes you can break it down to species, rough species.
At least
genus.
conifer versus deciduous.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can start estimating based on smaller trees where that canopy will be. The
Okay.
real essential point, though, will be redoing this tool with the newest data, right? So LiDAR usually comes out in an increment, like a timeline, and we just need to make sure that we follow up and actually get this redone. Urban areas are notorious for changing in a matter of months, right? So for landscape processes, canopy coverage, habitat connectivity, waterways, these things can all change so rapidly, which is why the newest data is really important for us to kind of keep seeking.
And I think the vintage on the LiDAR data that we have now is like 2014. And this spring, they're flying another flight to get more LiDAR data.
Great. So Tree Board has been working really hard as well. Now that the Urban Forest Management Plan has been adopted, they're going on to tree code as well as a tree planting species list. We're also going to be focusing on outreach regarding the Urban Forest Management Plan, making sure people know in the community what it is, what's the purpose of it, and especially how it aligns to our climate goals.
And is the tree board filled yet?
We have one vacancy.
One vacancy, okay.
Scott just forwarded me a application earlier this week or late last week.
Like PSAC, we have a number of vacancies, so if people are interested.
And then, once again, we're participating in the comprehensive plan, which does have a natural resource section as well as an environmental quality section to make sure that our canopy goals from the climate plan and the urban forest management plan are really infused in those policies. Okay, so I also do want to talk about, I did meet with Steve Hoffeditz for public health and preparedness in the climate action plan, so we are starting to align both of our work plans for that and starting conversations and sharing stuff back and forth. So outreach. So we've been focusing kind of on two branches, internal and external. So for internal outreach, we did have a final climate action planning committee meeting. From that meeting, we really were hoping to get the key takeaway points of if we were to redo this process again, which we are going to, where can we improve? And the things that really stood out were just get to the point when it comes to these meetings. Now that maybe we had our first climate action plan, the climate education 101 point can kind of maybe be a separate thing, and the meetings can really start to drive a little bit faster. So we can dive a little bit deeper. Also increased inclusion. So maybe we need to work more to really incorporate all of our community members and target demographics who have been traditionally left off the table, especially when it comes to people of color and youth, or something that were members of our community who were identified as needing to increase participation to make sure we have all voices heard. We also had an internal department climate action planning meeting, and this was really trying to see what tools are necessary for us to institutionalize the climate action plan. Our Enviro Issues is working on those tools currently. Things coming out of it are going to be things like an alignment graphic for plans that are existing within the city and how the climate action plan infuses in all the different things we're doing. A newsletter template so we can start sending out quarterly newsletter on projects going on in the city, and then also a resource toolkit. General thoughts were just increasing that resource availability. And then also incorporation of interdepartmental goals. So this is something that Peter and I have been working pretty hard on and making sure we're working with our other staff members. So when we have climate documents, climate outreach, we're also infusing housing affordability. We're talking about equity and making sure vice versa is happening, because I think that there's an opportunity to start highlighting how we can infuse all of these together into one really cool project or plan. And then staff educational opportunities. So we're hosting some lunch and learns. We just had Brightworks come and give kind of a two-part talk about green building codes and incentives programs. And we're hoping to continue that into the future, so that way staff have opportunity to learn a little bit more about climate. For external outreach, I'm going to speed by this, but I do recommend you check out our sustainability pages. There's a climate action homepage, MilwaukeeClimateAction.com. There's also urban forest homepage, and then recycling and waste is a whole different page. And these pages really link to a lot of external great resources, but then also tie the community back to city staff who can answer questions. And they kind of, each of them, are, especially urban forest and climate, are focusing on the documents that you guys adopted, and then how there's different resources that tie to those documents. And then story maps is something Public Works has been working on as well. There's a climate action story map that's going to be coming out, and that just kind of tells the story of our climate action plan in a more immersive way. So that should be rolling out in the next month or so. And then finally, we've been attending a lot of community and industry events, from Electric Avenue towards solar tours. We've been making sure that we're getting out there and really talking about the climate action plan and seeing community members, and even just saying, hey, did you know we have climate goals as a city? And a lot of times people at the beginning said, no, I had no idea. And the more events we go to, the more it's like, yeah, I kind of heard about that. And I think in part that's also due to our excellent team hosting social media posts. So Jordan Imlaw has been fantastic about, if you saw Climate Action Week, really making sure the message is getting out there in these really interactive and well-designed posts. And so we're going to continue to do that. Upcoming events that I just wanted to let you guys know about. So on May 20th, there's Clackamas County is having a rural-focused solar workshop. Mayor Gamba and myself will be there, as well as, I think Peter might be there as well, yeah? Peter's going to be there, and we're going to be talking about implementing community programs related to solar. Spring 2019, Waverly, their solar array is going to be opening. I know that they're planning an event opening for that. It's still in discussion right now, and the dates kind of keep changing. And then summer 2019, we do have a few of the booth tables, or the table reserved, so we will be getting out to the community members then. And I do love a good farmer's market, so I'm happy to be there. Okay. So, partnerships and programs. How are we doing on time?
Not a whole lot.
No? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to speed by this. Essentially, we've been partnering with some really great people and programs. We're now part of the Zero Energy Ready Coalition, which focuses on building energy and optimization. The Public Sector Sustainability Roundtable just gets other public sector sustainability coordinators together to start talking about implementing programs, what's working, what's not. The Regional Habitat Connectivity Work Group. This is a group I was actually working with before I came to Milwaukie. It incorporates City of Portland, Metro, any sort of regional jurisdiction, and it starts focusing on connecting our green spaces, especially through the urban and rural divide. And then I mentioned Home Energy Score, and Peter's going to talk to you about PGE.
Thank you, Natalie.
Did I talk fast enough?
So PG, we've got a lot of really great things going on with PG. They've been a really great partner to work with. Natalie's already talked about Electric Avenue. Yesterday, we had a meeting about the demand response smart grid program that we're doing a test bed here within the community. They are going to have a soft opening kickoff of that here in the next 2 months. Within that test bed region. And that's really where they're looking at being able to provide opportunities for people to take advantage of smart thermostats and water heater controls and get a rebate on their electric bill.
And how, have they identified a neighborhood, an area they're doing?
They have identified a neighborhood. They're working on their marketing tools. They're getting ready to actually do an initial survey of the neighborhoods, and we're one of 3 communities that are part of this test bed program, Hillsborough and Portland as well. So they're working hard, fast and furious to try to get this started. They really want to take advantage of the summertime, getting it started in the summertime. It's going to be tight because summer's coming up this week, it seems like. Yeah.
It is here, yeah.
I think it's here. Yeah.
So, but we're going to be doing that, and I think we'll be setting up some time this summer for PG folks to come in and talk about that program as well at one of the meetings. Bidirectional charging, we might have an opportunity there to do bidirectional EV charging with PGE, taking advantage of the 4 Nissan Leafs that we have. They're the one vehicle that has that flexibility where you can charge the vehicle and then actually feed back into the grid from that battery. And then the Green Future Impact, which is that green tariff program. So this is a new program that was just approved by the Public Utility Commission. It's a bundled REC program. So that means the electricity and the environmental benefits from that electricity come packaged together. You can actually claim that electricity that you're purchasing is 100% renewable. They're providing 2 opportunities, a 10-year contract and a 15-year contract. In this program, actually, what it does is it's going to go out. It's a subscription-based program. There's limited sort of slots there to take advantage of, and they're going to go out and build a new solar or wind facility in Oregon or Washington, a local facility. We're looking for endorsement from the council to submit a letter of commitment by May 31st. They're getting ready to send out a draft of what that letter of commitment is going to look like here in the next day or 2. Really, one of the benefits of this is with that 15-year program, we actually save money on what we're doing right now on our electric bill, about almost $800 annually, just by doing that. So right now, that Clean Wind program that we're part of is an unbundled rec. So the electricity that we get from that could have been produced whenever, wherever. Typically, it's in the Pacific Northwest. It's part of the western region, but not always. Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah. Sometimes they get electricity from Oklahoma or Utah, where there's a lot of wind available. It's a month-to-month purchase, and right now it's about $3 a megawatt hour, which corresponds to 0.3 of a cent per kilowatt hour. Right now, we spend about $8,479 per year as part of that.
So that's our utility bill? That's our electric bill?
That's the increment for the clean wind piece.
Okay. Thought that seemed low for our,
Yeah. So
The library by itself was more than that,
yeah,
was it? Yeah.
a lot more.
and it's right about 75% of our purchase power.
The way that these renewable programs work is to make sure the ratepayer isn't paying for the renewable option. There's kind of like the base pay that everyone pays, and then you kind of pay for the renewableness on top of it. So that's why it's split out for these costs values, because no matter what, you're going to be paying that base value, just getting the distribution charge and getting the electricity to your door.
Yeah. And what they're finding is that those prices are starting to come down in terms of those of that increment for that clean renewable energy. So the Green Future Impact piece, that 15-year contract, the price is, 1/3, 2/3 of the cost of the current Clean Wind program that we have. So increasing all the way up to 100% Green Future Impact, where 100% of our electricity is purchased through that, we actually have a decrease in our overall bill.
And those contracts with all those cities are what's going to allow them to build these
Right, yes.
projects.
And this, it's a first come, first serve, so there's a lot of interest with a lot of the other communities here. It's specifically for commercial and larger customers. It does not apply to residential customers. PG is still providing that green source program, which is roughly about 3 cents per kilowatt hour as well.
And this is exciting because it allows Oregon and Washington, it allows our immediate region to benefit from creating new generation, because oftentimes when you're just buying from somewhere on the West Coast, that benefit may not be coming back to our communities. And this really brings it here, and it means that we are making sure that new generation happens that is clean energy. And oftentimes, there's things you can do like carbon offsets or what have you, where that's not a guaranteed outcome. You may just have someone who's paying a surcharge for something that is a good idea but would have happened anyway. So this is incentivizing some really great stuff.
Actually, new builds, yeah.
Well, and us staff are really excited about it because it promotes the development of new local infrastructure that's in alignment with the executive order for clean jobs. It also is that bundled rec product, so we can say right now that we're operating on 100% net carbon zero energy, but it's using this rec product, which is not bad. Unbundled recs are not bad, but it's just not the message that we wanted to really convey through our climate action plan and city operations. So this is a really great opportunity. And that it saves us money is also something that's really exciting for us. And PG has been great in keeping us up to date on this development. I believe they're actually even exceeding the amount of contracts that they're going to get to be able to have paid purchase power, right? So to sell off power as well and infuse the grid with more renewables to match their RPS, to increase the amount of renewables that's already in their base package. So the support of this infrastructure is also supporting people who are not currently purchasing into a renewable program.
And since they started this process, their price on that 15-year contract went down by that 1/10 of a cent to
Sorry, we've got to get going for the next people who are on the dais, but this is a moment in time. We put this purposefully at the end because we wanted to give you guys a chance to tell us that this is what you want us to do. Because this is a big deal, and I think this is probably the biggest deal that we've done to date since we started your work, and we didn't want it to pass by. So with that, I know it's not a motion, but
You
I'm
need one
getting-
in the regular session?
If you'd like to make one, we don't need one, it's within my signing authority, but if you'd like to make one in the regular session, you
Let's get
can.
us language so that during the regular session, we can make a motion and
Perfect,
Good.
thank you.
3 very fast things. You don't have to give me answers.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just food for thought. Research I've been doing recently, prepping for other things. I'm finding out that refrigeration is actually biggest bang for the buck, the thing that we can address as a nation. We have a huge cold storage facility here. That might be a place that we could maybe make a move that's impactful. The other thing to sort of noodle on is how do we take the Waverly rollout and sort of leverage that with other big companies, with other apartment complexes, whatever, to use them as an example, to draw other companies' attention to that.
And we've been working with, I've had conversations with both Solar Oregon and Energy Trust in Oregon about a Solarized 2.0 campaign. That's in the works. They're kind of wanting to redo it, the model, to implement it and roll it out in multiple communities. And something that we're asking of them is to provide a written, detailed commitment that what the cities would need to provide for staff. And so
Solarized
we
has
could
always
bring
been
that.
about individual houses. I'm interested in the
Well, and
bigger
they're
ways.
incorporating multifamily housing as well as commercial, hopefully,
Good.
in this campaign.
Perfect.
Especially
I mean,
the
if
north
we-
and the Milwaukie.
Exactly. If we're
Innovation
gonna-
area.
If there's going to be an event, we should be inviting all those NMIA owners, because that's a ripe place, all those flat roofs.
Well, and if it is just strictly residential and the opportunity for multifamily, I mean, part of that is now residential, and no one's actually doing anything with it yet. So there is the potential for solar
Yeah.
on residential right next to the MAG station.
And then the last little piece is budget. You guys are doing awesome with what you have. I'd be curious to know if you have an interest or desire, or you feel like, God, if we only had X, we could really take this to the next level. That's something I want to know before we go into
Yeah.
budgeting.
Cool.
Awesome. That's all I have. You guys are, that's amazing. This was
So exciting.
totally pleasurable hour.
Well, thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, our next item is the Milwaukie Youth Empowerment Coalition update, which will be presented by Brian McCready and Chief Straight.
And I just feel like I have to notice out loud that I believe this is the first time we're seeing Chief Straight in his chief capacity.
Yeah, we're
front of
keeping
us.
it busy today.
We
aren't
are, yeah.
That is true. First
Yes.
official appearance before
So
council
officially
as
welcome.
the chief.
Yes, Mayor and Council, Luke Straight with the Police Department. And I'm here today just, first of all, to accept Natalie and Peter's recommendation that I drive a Tesla. I am willing to do my part. But as a secondary issue, I'm also here to introduce Brian McCready, who's with Health, Housing, and Human Services. And he's teamed up with Lana Shotwell with Trillium Family Services. And they've been working together for the past few years with the Milwaukie Youth Empowerment Coalition, which is a program that targets underage drinking. They're a few years into it, and he's here to give us kind of an update on what's gone on in the last year or so.
Cool. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So good afternoon, and thanks for having us here today. We want to share a little bit about the work that our coalition's been conducting the last few years. We're kind of wrapping up the end of our funding cycle, so we wanted to give you kind of a snapshot. So the one-pager that you have, as well as kind of the coalition update from the slideshow. One of the things that was identified early on was from focus groups with youth was an area that youth close to Milwaukie High School where youth hang out pretty secluded if you drop down the edge of that park there at Dogwood Park. So we collaborated with North Clackamas Parks and Recreation and decided that we're going to try to clean that up. So they've helped us. They've supplied all the tools, helped with manpower. We've also collaborated with them and cleaned it up, planted some low vegetation around that area, and we also looked at Klein Point as well, right below there during the summertime when the river's out was another spot that we identified. So that's something that as we look at the future, we're looking to see that continue. I know Matthew with the Parks Department has said he really wants to continue working on that twice a year to just keep it cleaned up and spruced up, and the vegetation, the things that were planted, give them some water and hopefully continue that. One of the things that has been really passionate as I've done prevention now for 17 years is really focusing on that positive norm that most youth do not use drugs and alcohol. And so that's been a big part of what we've been doing at Rao, Alder Creek Middle Schools the last 3 years. And this is just an example of one of the posters that the youth made after we teach them kind of around the positive community norms, what it looks like. We use these clickers so they vote in to see what they think or do they think most youth are using at their middle school. And then we teach them about media literacy, and then they create usually a poster like this. And that's something that we're going to do intensively in a few days at Rao. We're going to do a town hall there. And then after they create these posters, then what we had them put up in the hallway, all the ones that were exceptional, and some of these kids we were able to give them gift cards. And so just to really emphasize that idea that where do I find my place in this world of middle school and high school, and really promote the idea that most kids do not use drugs and alcohol. Not to deny that there's not a problem with drugs and alcohol in the schools, but we really want to emphasize if kids are trying to find out, hey, where do I belong? Most kids don't use.
Thank you so much.
And then another program that we've helped support and provide funding for is called PreventNet. And we have a half-time staff at Rao, Alder Creek, Milwaukie High School, and New Urban. And so this is just some of the activities that they did during spring break this year. They went to OMSI. And then we also helped support Hispanic dance there at Milwaukie High School last year with the help of the school counselors. And so the event coming up Thursday is, we're calling it the Hangout at Rao. And so I'll have the clickers to start that event, and I'll take some of those questions around 30-day use of alcohol, marijuana, and ask them if they think most of their peers have used in the last 30 days, just to get an idea of what they think. And then I'll talk to them a little bit about perceptions and why are some of the reasons that they perceive that so many kids are using versus not. And then we'll have a panel of people from Recovery, Juvenile Department, Trillium Family Services, and Vibrant Futures Coalition in North Clackamas. And then we'll have kids ask questions on index cards, and we'll take those questions and ask the panel what they think and have panel give feedback on that. Then we'll do some kind of interactive games, provide them pizza, and everybody will get a T-shirt. I don't know if you guys can all see this. I can pass it around, but basically just using the Rao shamrock coloring, and then just a clear message, and then our coalition logo is there on the back side. So I'm really excited about it, and I just want to invite you to come if you have time from 4 to 6 on Thursday. Pop in. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we really thank the principal for really supporting this, as well as the school counselors and Boys and Girls Clubs.
On the little flyer that I handed out, it has all of our accomplishments because there's more that Brian didn't get to. But as much as we have done really, really great work over the last 3-4 years, in theory, our funding is over. We had our money from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, and it's SPF, PFS on there, but it's a Strategic Prevention Framework Partnership for Success Grant. And so that funding is ending.
Is that state or federal? What is that?
Federal.
Federal?
But it comes through the state, so it filters down,
Okay.
but it is a federal.
But it's ending.
But it is ending. And so we do have a lot of ways that we're going to be able to sustain what we're continuing to do. So we'll continue to do our Rowell Middle School presentations and have the kids make the posters and that positive community norms presentation. Vibrant Futures Coalition is also a coalition that's similar to us. They got 10-year funding, so they will still be here and we'll continue to partner with them. We've had a really great relationship and we've done a really good job making sure that we're not doing each other's work and duplicating. I'm in it at Dogwood Park and I will be there twice a year with my boots on, cutting up blackberry bushes and watering. So we made a promise to them that we'd keep that up. And then the North Clackamas School District was very kind to us, and they let us have a page on their website about drug and alcohol prevention. We really focused on parents and the idea that it's important that they talk to their kids about drug and alcohol use and how helpful and meaningful that is for the kids. So that is stuff that we get to continue. We do have work to do still. And so that's kind of why we're here. We're looking for maybe about $10,000 that would fund the coordination of the services. So ongoing, making sure that our partnerships are ongoing. We can make new partnerships. We've had really great sector turnout, I feel like, in this coalition. So we've had people from businesses and we've had people from schools and we've had people, I'm in mental health. So that is what we're asking for. I don't know did I miss anything, Brian?
No, I think basically the one thing about Vibrant Futures is they cover all of North Clackamas, and whereas ours was focused on Milwaukie. And so that's a big area. North Clackamas is over 100,000 people, and so that was basically the difference.
Brian?
We were able to drill down.
So can you sit next to the microphone?
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. So, thanks. So we were able to kind of really focus on Milwaukie versus they cover a bigger area of the North Clackamas community.
So the 10,000 is a specific Milwaukie.
Correct.
And that would fund your coordination for a year, or what is that?
Yeah, it would. I'm going to be moving into a different role starting this summer on the county coordination of the whole county. But that would definitely help support coordination of continued work here with the schools, with the positive community norms in the community to do town halls and events such as that where we could really leverage that funding with Vibrant Futures Coalition, with the various partners that you see on this page. And I think it would be a really effective use of funding.
Any other questions?
I do have one really quick question about the cleanup events. I just was wondering if you sought volunteers, student volunteers from, these were sort of geared,
Right.
cleaning up to prevent children from doing the activities, but what about encouraging them to help with that cleanup and whether that helps send a message then? So I'm just.
Yes. We haven't sought it out as hard as we should have. I think usually the events are after school, and it just so happens that it's not. We've usually just had adult volunteers. Kids that's another thing we need to.
They have check boxes they need to fill for
Yes,
college.
they do. They're busy, and yet, but they also have community engagement stuff that they have to do a lot, especially the seniors. Yeah.
And there may be, specific teachers that would partner and bring out a class or whatever. We used to have that on Elk Rock Island a lot. I don't know that it's happening lately, but there were some Milwaukie high school classes that would go out and do cleanups on Elk Rock Island. Yeah.
We actually have cleanups scheduled now for next week, July and August, or June and July out on the island. So I don't think you need more opportunities, but
Sure.
since you mentioned it, I wanted to get that out there.
Well, I'd like to mention along that vein, too, that since Rotary started an Interact Club at Rowe Middle School, those students from the middle school have come out and helped us with the Lake Road cleanup that Rotary does. So they're participating in those kinds of things also. So we think the Interact Club is a really positive kind of opportunity for the kids at Rowe Middle School and helps, I think, with the goals that the Youth Coalition has had also.
And we have the pleasure of hearing from at least one student from Milwaukie High School every month, and they are very, very engaged in these types of events and many other activities. So you definitely have a pool from which to pull.
On a slightly different bent, do you have data around where kids are accessing alcohol?
We have data from the beginning, and really, there's two areas that are the highest, and that is from family members who might not even be parent caregivers, but they might be aunts, uncles, older brothers, people that are 21, and then, because I remember the early demographic was that, at that time, 3 years ago, a lot of the people that were graduating from Milwaukie High School, there was a pretty good percentage that stayed in town. And so as they maybe went to Clackamas Community College or somewhere like that, then there was that, as they aged to 21, then there was that pipeline that would flow from their accessibility back down. And the other thing is, fake IDs are also pretty easy to purchase now, and they're very real looking. I mean, they're almost undetectable. I don't know if a chief can talk about that at all, but that was another thing that come up. And then just the perception that it's just alcohol. Again, back to that idea, and marijuana is also in that same route where there's just such a normalcy to it that it's like it's not that big a deal. It's just alcohol. And so, I would say friends and family members that are over 21 would be the two biggest areas.
And we are at time, just so you know, we were ending early for your executive
We have
session.
executive session.
I would note that OLCC occasionally posts the results of their, they sort of go out, they send people, young-looking people out to buy alcohol. They do these sort of sting operations. And I haven't ever seen one that's for Milwaukie, but I've seen them for certain communities. And so there may be information there to be had from OLCC.
Yeah, I was just sort of noodling on places to approach to help fund your process, right? And it seems like the liquor stores, OLCC, would be places that should kick in.
Yeah, and then there's one of the challenges has been, anytime you talk about raising a tax, either around alcohol or tobacco, we actually are one of the only counties in the whole state that actually got marijuana tax revenue to do prevention work, which was no small task in itself. So at least we have it for this year. We don't know what will happen as of next year, but I think that shows that this county is committed to prevention. So that was really good to see that happen.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for all your work.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Wilda.
Thanks.
All right. Let me find Upon adjournment of the work session, council will meet in executive session pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute ORS 192.6602E to deliberate with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. And with that, we are adjourned from the work session.